Good evening, residents, and welcome to this episode of Nightmare Nobodies. I am Timothy, and I'm joined by my friend Sam as we get together to discuss horror movies. Find a seat as we begin the gathering. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tim.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Fabulous.
I love these glasses.
We are quickly approaching Halloween itself, and you know what? I'm just deciding that it's never going to end for me on this end for the show.
I love it.
We're going to costume every chance we can.
I shall not, but I will try and do something cute.
Indeed. What does your shirt say?
Hey, boo.
Oh, I can't get enough of the picture to good quality focus on my end here when we're recording. It's just a little pixel block. So I was like,
it says "Hey, boo."
Oh,
and
man.
it's a sheet ghost
Of the best kind.
with his feet showing.
Ooh, I do have a sheet ghost now, actually, just above my head.
Is it like a clown sheet ghost?
Yeah, it's something like that. Here's just a little something that I guess a wizard witch.
Yeah.
I got him at the dollar store.
Dollar Store has some cute finds. I don't care.
Halloween is lit there, honestly.
Now you have to try and get him to stay again. He may just be your wand for the episode. Okay. Oh no, we've had a casualty.
Done. So, enough of that shenanigans. Today,
I love these glasses that you've got going on.
Oh, thank you. They're little, they're called cyberpunk glasses because they're a wraparound visor kind of thing, and they've got lights in them, and so they kind of give that feeling of the ghost glasses in 13 Ghosts.
It's like if the glasses from 13 Ghosts and what is LeVar Burton's character's name in Star Trek?
I can't remember right now, and I've been thinking about it.
Like the visor that he has, if you mashed the two of those up, you get these. I actually really like them. They look really cool.
They're very cool. They're not very well put together, but you know what? I'm pretty happy with them. They're good. They're good for performance art.
Yes.
They're not very practical though.
We will post a photo of you in them for those that are listening on Spotify or Apple.
Indeed.
All right.
So as we've mentioned, we are watching 13 Ghosts. We have watched 13 Ghosts and we are discussing 13 Ghosts. We're not watching 13 Ghosts today. Heavens no.
Hey!
Heavens no. Heavens no. I don't... that's too long. It would be too long of an adventure to do that right now.
Okay. I'll accept that backpedaling.
Okay, good.
But make no mistake, I know that's you backpedaling. What is going on with your house today?
That was my coffee maker telling me that it's turning off because it's no longer heating the coffee. It's been too long since I made it. 13 Ghosts. If you haven't seen 13 Ghosts yet, this is your spoiler too. Get the heck out of here and watch it. Because despite my groaning about it, it is a pretty decent movie and it's fabulous for Halloween. Honestly. So, you've been warned.
I think that's the first nice thing you've said.
Listen, I think it's a fine movie. I'm just very, very, very confused. Very confused.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the confusion just leads to anger.
Since it came out in 2001, it has been a staple in my rotation. So I know it well.
Indeed.
And so I take for granted the fact that you probably got to watch it a couple of times to pick up some of the things that they say during the one and only actual capture we see. And then the two conversations in the third act that kind of piece everything together.
Yeah. So you're going to get two very different sides of this movie.
Finally, we are not going to be in complete agreement on a movie.
Ooh, thank goodness. There had to be one, and this was the breaking one, I guess. So let me throw in the spoiler real quick, and we can get into the meat of this episode.
You mean the synopsis? You already did the spoiler.
Ah, bollocks. The synopsis. Sorry, there's too many words. Um, the synopsis, and you got this from IMDb?
I did.
Great. When Cyrus Criticos, a very rich collector of unique things, dies, he leaves his house, fortune, and his prized collection of ghosts. So, there you go. That's...
To his nephew.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
It wasn't in there.
No, it's Cyrus moves his whole nephew's family in there, and it's kind of weird.
We've got some pretty big, for the time, actors in this movie. We've got Tony Shalhoub, we've got Shannon Elizabeth, F. Murray Abraham, and Matthew Lillard. This is also the first movie that hip-hop artist Raw Digga was ever a part of.
And Beth Davids is also in this, and that's the one I really was like hyped about finding out.
Yes. That one, I didn't know her, so like...
You've never seen Matilda?
I've seen Matilda, but it doesn't mean I recognize her. I've
Miss
seen
Honey.
Matilda about as often as you've seen The Shining.
Matilda's a very sweet movie. It encouraged me to read books, and Miss Honey was one of my favorite characters.
I needed no encouragement to read books.
But Embeth was also in another movie that I really liked as a kid. But I spent the movie I liked as a kid was Bicentennial Man. With,
yes.
Robin Williams.
Yes.
But when I was watching this, the first time, Kalina, is that how you say her name? Kalina?
Yes.
Kalina was on screen. I had this like, I know this woman. I know this face. I've stared at this face so many times, and it ate me up until the end of the movie because I didn't want to pull my phone out while watching the movie to look up who this was because there was so much going on in the movie. I couldn't, stop.
Okay. So we're just going to jump into the questions. And you can tell that I like this movie because there are a couple more questions than normal.
There are 7 questions. We normally try to have 4.
We may or may not get to all of them. But I want to know... Oh, we didn't even mention. So the director of this movie is Steve Beck. And this was his directorial debut. He's also the director of Ghost Ship, which came on the heels of 13 Ghosts.
So good. That was another great movie.
You can see... you can see that he really enjoyed the first kill in 13 Ghosts based on the first kill in Ghost Ship.
Wait, I forgot the first kill in Ghost Ship. I mean, because I haven't watched that since middle school.
It's like the cable wire kill.
Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I think.
Oh yeah, down the whole ship, and like the whole ship's party goes. Oh.
Yes.
I'm just like, yeah.
But speaking of that first kill, which in 13 Ghosts is the lawyer getting cleanly split in half by the glass doors. Yes.
I thought the first kill was the guy getting sucked into the trunk of the car.
That doesn't count.
What?
Like in the house, the first real kill of the house.
The
first
house kills.
The first kill that we know the person, right? Because you're right. There were several kills in the junkyard. Speaking of that one, I did love seeing him get folded up.
That was...
And just sucked right in. And did he get sucked into the trunk? Because I thought he got sucked in between the cars.
No, he got sucked into the trunk. The trunk lid was what opened, and then like it was like the Juggernaut was in there, like pulling him through.
No,
or should I call him the Breaker?
So he was called the Breaker in the beginning because that was his serial killer name, and that's what Dennis knew him as. We, as the viewers, know him more as the Juggernaut because he is the one to fill that role in the Black Zodiac.
See, and here's my silly thing is like, I knew him. He was called the Juggernaut or the Breaker at the beginning, and that's what I kept calling him throughout the film. And so when Sam and I were discussing this over the phone, she's like, "He's not the Breaker, he's the Juggernaut." And I'm like, "Why the F are they giving them 13 middle names?" He's like, "Why? Just name them once and don't name them again."
Well, I think the thought process behind that was to sell the fact that Dennis didn't know the full story. Dennis didn't know about the machine. Dennis didn't really know the purpose of the ghost.
Right.
He was
That's
just
fair.
being paid to help Cyrus collect 12 ghosts. Oh, no. He was supposed to be handsomely paid.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't.
But Cyrus has this really gnarly habit of killing you instead of paying you.
Indeed.
Which we will see again and again throughout the movie. He's ruthless. Like, he was ruthless in life with zero remorse. Yeah. So the one thing that I wish they would have done is put more of the ghost backstories and why they were chosen into the movie itself instead of it being a special feature on the DVD.
Yeah. Like watching it on Netflix or Amazon, which is what I wound up doing. There was no backstory. There was no options. There's nothing, so it's like, I had to go to YouTube.
I was going to say, you can find the Ghost Files on YouTube now. I actually bought the DVD, actually the Blu-ray, so that I could sit in my bed and like old school, because this is an extremely nostalgic movie for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it came out when I was in high school. I would watch it all the time, scared the ever-living snot out of me. I loved that the ghosts were not CGI. They were people and a metric ton of makeup.
So much makeup.
Yes. But I loved that aspect of it, and it also made it real to me. Obviously, it's a little scarier to see like the jackal physically on top of Sharon Elizabeth, like scratching at her and stuff and ripping her clothes versus like CGIing it.
Yeah.
Especially back then.
Oh, yeah. The early 2000s and CGI they were not besties.
No, don't get me wrong. There is some CGI in this. It's just not on the ghosts.
No. Which is great. I mean, and you can tell the CGI when it happens, but it doesn't take you out of it.
No, it's still well done enough that you're like, all right, I can tell it's fake, but I can pretend that it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think my favorite practical has to be that when the lawyer gets killed. Like that clean cut, his front half just slides down and reveals all the innards. The
cross section. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever been to like a museum or something that had like one of them weird, like I don't know how to say this without sounding too grotesque, where they like literally strip out every like tissue out of your body and then they put it between glass and then they just kind of stack it together so you can go through it. That's what that reminded me of.
Okay. I can see that. I don't think I could stomach seeing that though. So no, I've never seen that in person.
Oh yeah. No, it's brutal. It really kind of gives you a check of this is what your body is. It looks very soft. But that cross section, that's what it like. I was so impressed with that death and the fact that they actually went in and created that, like went into detail in the skull when you saw him slide down.
Yep.
And that was excellent.
Did you maybe it's because I've seen this so many times and I know how precious those glasses are. But I cringed when the glasses were cut. They have to be. I get that. It's gonna happen. But I cringed because I was like, they need those.
Yeah, but I think it adds like a nice sense of desperation because they have to share the glasses now.
I do
and so
like
they have to trust each other.
Exactly. Which, one of my favorite quotes is, what is it? Can I trust you not to get me killed? When Maggie says to Dennis, can I trust you not to get me killed? And Dennis says, I guarantee nothing. Okay. Flawed movie, sure, to the high heavens in some regards. A favorite of mine. Because it's still fun. And I think a lot of that has to do with the one-liners.
There are some pretty fabulous one-liners. The writing in this movie was really excellent also, I have to say, because a lot of times horror movies don't have really good dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah. And this movie has such a great rounded team of actors that it had to be written well. Otherwise, and because these guys are so emotive, like Tony Shalhoub, he so good. I like Tony Shalhoub.
See, and I love Matthew Lillard. He can deliver some of the like weirdest lines with equal parts sincerity and just straight absurdity. Like it's beautiful, and because of that balance, it's believable.
Yeah. It was great.
So going from kind of a high, talking about the things we liked about the practical effects, and there are many. I want to know some of your gripes about this movie, some questions you have that maybe I can help with, because I have, not to toot my own horn, but I have watched it a lot.
So I'm going to come out in left field and tell you something that I've been keeping in my pocket, and I haven't even brought up once.
Wow.
So when they get into the house, hang on, let me find his name again. Arthur goes up to one of the walls and he goes, Latin. So he can read this.
Yes.
And then later on, he doesn't utilize this. He doesn't even start trying to read any of it to try and help him if it could.
So
even after Kalina comes in.
So I don't think that Arthur is fluent in it. He is a math teacher.
Think like church Latin?
My question is, could be, my question or my thought is, church Latin could also be that he either went to a classical school as a child or currently teaches in a classical school. Because when she says, and forgive me, I don't know Latin, so I'm just going to say the English. When she says the Latin phrase for eye of hell, he recognizes it. I think it's like Ocularis Inferno or something like that.
Yeah, Infernum.
Infernum, thank you. So it's Ocularis Infernum. So he can translate that.
Right.
So he knows, at the very least, he knows very rudimentary Latin.
It's like me and my Spanish. I get it.
Yeah.
I could read some words, but it's really un poquito.
Yes.
Anyways.
Okay.
So that was a big question I had about like Arthur and his Latin, and it's like, and it kind of plays into my gripes about the whole magic thing, because it was touched upon, it's utilized, but it's not explained in a accurate or well-defined manner. It's kind of just glossed.
Yes. What else? Like what other gripes do you have?
I mean, that, and like, they just kind of threw these ghosts at you. They didn't really have much of a backstory. You don't know why these people are in this house wandering around like idiots, other than they're just idiots. And it's like,
what do you mean these people are wandering around like idiots?
Like Arthur, his family, and Dennis, and it's like they're trying to find the kids. I get it, but it's like
they
watching
can't
Doctor
leave.
Who. It's like watching Doctor Who. A
movie, what the hell? A TV show. a door.
Well, yeah, but it's like that, but 1,000 times, because you've got one guy who's basically a doctor, and you've got 8 companions that have just ran off and are going to get killed.
4 companions.
Equivalent of 8.
Okay.
My math doesn't make sense all the time, Sam.
I think
don't
Arthur needs to give you some lessons.
Yeah. I'm not good with numbers. Anyways, but it's like, I spent a lot of the movie just kind of, I'm watching it, I'm enjoying it, but I just had questions. And
well, ask them.
Well, I have. I mean, like the whole magic concept. Again, we go back to that. Like,
so there's
at one point they're using the door. I mean, couldn't they have used something else?
No. It has the containment spell on it.
Don't they have the book?
Yes, but she's very particular about what she lets them see. Her whole goal is to make sure that Arthur doesn't die.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
There's nothing else.
Right.
She's making sure Arthur doesn't die so that he can sacrifice himself and be the 13th ghost that Damien extremely briefly mentions when they are capturing the Juggernaut.
Mm-hmm. Damien?
So, yeah. So remember the first time we see Kalina in the junkyard? She runs up with a man?
Yeah.
That's Damien.
I called him the wizard.
Well,
these two just come up and they're like, oh yeah, we've got like the Quicksilver and we've got all this and that and all these magical accoutrements, and it's like, meh.
Yeah, they're the ghost rights activists. Remember?
They didn't go into that either.
Their whole point is to free them, because they tell Cyrus that what he's doing is cruel because he's enslaving these ghosts.
Mm.
And that's when Dennis says, you want to save lives? Go join Greenpeace and throw blood on women's fur coats.
Yep. But I mean, it's instead of actually kind of going into what we are seeing and what's going on with things, they spent a lot of time on exposition. I remember I kept checking out. There was like exposition,
yes, which is why you have all these questions.
It's like, I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I would like someone to say something. I would like these humans, like Arthur, to ask, hey, tell me what you know about this stuff, please. As they're walking through a hallway. I mean, that's not that hard.
Yes, but as they're walking through a hallway, they're also trying to make sure that ghosts don't come up and get them. So I find it funny that you have an issue with the fact that they took the door, whereas I have an issue with the fact that it's this one little pane that's only covering them front side.
Yeah.
Their back is completely open. So
that didn't make any sense either. It's like, what are you doing? This is the worst riot shield.
I do suppose it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
When trying to go find Bobby or whatever it is they're trying to do. And it serves the purpose in moving the story along and killing Dennis, mm-hmm. because only one of them fits back there. Mm-hmm. Speaking of that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Did you find that Dennis's premonition earlier in the movie kind of takes away from him sacrificing himself for Arthur?
Yes. I kind of thought it was neat at first when he started like seeing the future and then he died. I was like, oh yeah, well, this isn't nearly as exciting as you'd hoped it would be, because it's not exciting, and it kind of, I don't know, ruined.
One of my favorite quotes is from that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where Arthur's like, Dennis, what are you doing? And Dennis is like, I've needed a reason to like myself for a while now.
Gee.
So I like that. That was kind of cool. Like, on one hand, I see why they did it. On the other hand, it sucks. Because then you're like, okay, well, would Dennis have done that if he didn't know it was going to happen regardless?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe. It's weird. I mean, like, there's a lot of strange choices, I thought, in this movie.
Yes.
I mean, and granted, it was a directorial debut, but the exposition.
So there were a lot of interesting choices of what to leave out and what to do to push the plot along. However, it was all done in an entertaining way. Like,
yeah.
All flaws aside, it's still one of my favorite movies. Do I think it's a bad movie? Would I like? There are so many people out there that are like, "This is an awful movie." No, I don't think it's a bad movie. Do I think it's like brilliantly done? In some respects, like the special effects, both practical and like CGI and all that, all very well executed. The editing, if you have any seizure issues, I understand why they edited that way, right? We don't have glasses on. There's some people in the group that don't have glasses on. So the way that they're cutting back and forth with the ghost is jarring, and it's to show you both sides. I get it. However, I have some people in my life that probably would not be able to watch that movie.
Yeah, I actually had to watch that movie with the lights on, like, dim, because otherwise it would have triggered my, like, my brain, my concussion.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and it's the big reason why I don't see movies in theaters anymore, because it's too dark for me.
Right.
But I do honestly, like, despite how frustrated and upset I am with how this movie went, I still think it's very fun.
Yes.
I think it's going to be more like a Beetlejuice movie if I watch it again.
Yes, I agree. That's a really good way to describe it, because that's what it is for me.
I mean, there's no other way.
I love it.
It's got ghosts. You've got people arguing over glasses.
Yes. Well, I don't have the glasses. I can't see the ghost. Well, I do. Go
trust
that way.
The amount of trust these people don't have.
Well, I mean, you got some weird guy, right, who shows up dressed as someone from the power company saying that you're knocking out essentially the whole grid. And he's got to get in there and figure out what's going on with the breakers, who then tells you, essentially, I see dead people. It's going to be hard to trust him. Indeed. Until you put the glasses on, and then you're like, oh, homie was right.
He is crazy, but also right.
Yeah. I see ghosts. Goats?
Oh my God, that line, I honked. Like, to get me to honk laugh is a special thing, and I loved it. It's goats. Oh.
Okay, so I have one big gripe.
Oh.
So when Bobby's downstairs and he's running from the ghost, and you can hear them because he has his tape recorder, so like they're talking through that, and that's how you hear them. And Jean, who, spoiler alert, we find out is his mother and is also the withered lover. Mm-hmm. The fourth ghost in the Black Zodiac. We see Cyrus. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby, we never see Bobby again. We never hear from Bobby again or anything. Mm-mm. So you're like, okay, this is weird. Ghosts can take people. Scary. Mm. And then Kathy gets attacked by the jackal. They're running away. Kalina shows up. Mm-hmm. There's that door between them and the jackal now. And Kalina and Arthur start fighting. And it gets really close on them. Pretty shot. Mm-hmm. And then they turn around and Kathy's gone.
Yeah, she just poof.
No commotion. No nothing. Like, only thing I can think of is Kalina purposely kept him very focused on her so that Cyrus could somehow pull Kathy out. But there's absolutely no mention of that. There's no way to know that that's what happened. Mm-mm. That's me just speculating and assuming and trying to put pieces together for my own sanity.
Right, because Kalina was working with Cyrus, who, spoiler alert, wasn't dead.
Yes.
Yeah. He faked his own death, and then even at the house, I don't know how long he had been dead for at that point, but he still had the blood around his neck.
So I think that they probably redid that so that if they saw him, they thought he was a ghost in the house.
Oh, I thought he was just being a slob.
A man that meticulous, a man that built a house that beautiful. Also, can we talk about that set for a minute? How hellacious would that have been to film in?
Glass. Listen, props to the team who worked on this, because there was only one time I'd seen another person's face, and that was when Arthur and Dennis and Maggie were in the office. And Arthur just came over and punched the snot.
Right, so that would have been right after he found out Dennis helped Cyrus capture his wife.
Right, and then so as they close in on that, you can see it freaked me out the first time I saw it. I had to actually rewind it to see if I was like tripping or something. But as they close in, you could see a guy like in the window, and he looks like Kenny Loggins. Okay. I didn't come up with that. I thought he looked like a young George Lucas, but Kenny Loggins works way better.
Oh yeah.
But that was the only time I'd seen anyone in the reflections, and that whole place had to be made out of glass.
Yeah, the whole set was. And they had to, be very strategic about where everyone else, like the crew and everything, would go and like sit and all of that stuff.
Man. Do you know how long it took them to film this? Because I feel like it would have taken a long, long time.
I do not, actually.
Wow.
Out of everything that I know about this movie,
well,
that is not something that I know.
I'm going to go look real quick then.
Yeah, so I find it really interesting that they didn't do... that they didn't have more reflections.
That's excellent. That's excellent work, I think.
I do know that the entire cast and crew, if they weren't on scene, had to be in black. Mm-hmm. As a way to just kind of minimize any crap being seen.
So, I'm on the Wikipedia page right now for 13 Ghosts. Because I figured I'd start there. Literally, they've got one sentence in the whole development tab. And all it says was, James Gunn performed rewrites to the script, but was uncredited.
Did James Gunn come up with some of these one-liners?
Oh my God, I hope so.
Like, did the lawyer split?
Yeah. Oh, we should probably mention that, sometime into this episode. There was an original 1960s version of 13 Ghosts. I do not know how that stands up.
Which was really interesting. In my research for this, I did see a little bit about the 1960s one. Uh-huh. The ghosts were in 3D. So you had
the glasses.
You had the glasses. So the glasses in the remake, obviously the glasses didn't look anything like these, like the 1960s glasses. But the glasses in 13 Ghosts is a nod to the original.
So
makes you love it a little now, right?
I have a soft spot for 50s and 60s horror.
Really? I didn't know.
I was
and foreign. Let's not
and foreign. Yeah.
Gloss over that.
I'm kind of like an old man in that way. But I really, really, really love the thought of like, because black and was it blue and red 3D? Mm-hmm. Was it stereo 3D? I think it's called. That is so. It's so interesting to me that they've done that. Yeah. And, like back then, and that they could utilize that so well. And like, for instance, the Vincent Price House of Wax film was also in blue-red, like stereo 3D, and it's bananas watching it with the glasses on because it's in black and white, but it's 3D.
I can't do it.
Oh, it's so cool.
I can't do it. I can't do any kind of 3D. Like even as a kid, like I hated it because I love the concept of 3D. And even now, like when like whatever Avengers movie came out in 3D, my friends are like, let's go see it in 3D. And I'm like, I'll go watch 2D while you watch 3D. I'm not vomiting. I don't know what it is, but like I get a headache and it's an awful experience.
Modern 3D does that to me too.
But it was like back in the day too when I was a kid. It's been my whole life like that.
I don't think I'm ever going to find development time on this movie. There's no information.
So then, valiant effort. Let's move along.
Yes. No, listen, I'm still participating in conversation, but yes. I just wanted to, I wanted to know because it's the fact that they had the set ninjas hide themselves so well.
They did.
It was really like,
awesome.
I can't stop like applauding them for that because you didn't see any like light reflections. You didn't see any people, no camera lens reflections. Very, very, very good.
Okay, I have to ask.
Uh-huh.
Really quick because we do need to move this along.
Yes.
We got to get to our ratings. We have two ratings this week. We'll discuss that in a moment. So I know that there's a lot of things you didn't like. Mm-hmm. However, what was your favorite scene? Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. So visually, my favorite scene is the bathroom scene with the angry princess. When we pan in, we see Kathy in there. She's like going gaga over this pretty small bathroom for a house that's supposed to be that spectacular.
It's her own bathroom, though.
But it is her own bathroom. But I love how like the camera pans in to the glasses, and then we see blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And then she comes into the scene, and you see her standing behind Kathy, fixing herself, and then she goes and gets in the bathtub, which is, I do have to say, as much as I love this scene, Kathy going and like Neutrogenaing herself in that bathtub makes no sense to me. But I understand it's to get this shot with the angry princess in the bathtub, like blood-soaked water, blood-soaked whatever. And I don't know if you noticed, there's blood splatter everywhere. On the floor is written, "I'm sorry," in blood, which is what the angry princess was saying behind Kathy, but we can't hear the ghost.
Right.
So we can hear the ghost, but they can't hear the ghost. Right. I just thought that whole scene was beautifully shot, very well done. I like that you don't get any exposition on it, but it is a little bit, just a tiny bit of a glimpse into the angry princess's story.
Definitely.
Which also I loved. And I'm also glad Kathy didn't die in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Because then Arthur never would have sacrificed himself, which, spoiler alert, he didn't do anyway.
Nope.
So Cyrus would have just been like, well, gotta scrap this, and killed them all. And tried to find a new victim.
I think my favorite moment of this movie had to be when they were trying to bait the breaker. So they had the water trucks coming in and the blood coming out of it. Because, I lived in the desert and like I'm used to the water trucks spinning little waters up. But the blood coming out of it gave me like goosebumps. And then the killing started. And I'm sitting in my chair on the couch holding myself with my knees. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then this dude, like one of the guys, gets sucked into this trunk of a car. Bones breaking. It's disgusting sounding. There's a lot of just nonsense going on in there. And it was so well put together. I mean, there's a lot of like there's a lot of practical effects going on in it too. There's cars falling. There's people like being thrown around. You know.
Yeah.
And I love I love a good like I love a good messy blood sport, I guess, in the beginning of a movie. I don't know why I looked at the camera as I said that.
So one thing we've not discussed through this, well, actually two things we have not discussed through this entire thing is the fact that Kalina was a double agent.
Yeah.
And she killed Damien in that junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about the fact that Cyrus's death in that junkyard was fake.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about one of two kills that I feel was not as gory as it should be. And I think they did that to... Well, no, this was rated R, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was like...
So, I don't know
literally
why they
tore
didn't
people
do
apart
it.
in the beginning, Sam.
Yes, but there's not a whole lot of blood in that process. You know what I mean? Like when Kalina gets squished to death, all you see is blood like coming out of her eyes.
Yeah.
Her eyes are still in the sockets as they should be. And there's just blood. It looks like she's crying blood.
Mm-hmm.
Woohoo. And then I'm sorry. The ghosts yeet Cyrus into the machine, and the kids get no blood on them.
Yeah, that's true.
None.
I had to think about that. I had to rewind the like little thing, and he had to jump into this like oscillating disc spinner thing.
Yes.
It's really like messed up, and then like it's all spinning around, and it looks kind of like a weed eater or blender. And so you'd think if you like just threw like a tomato in there, just everyone would get tomato juice.
Exactly. So after Cyrus is yeeted in to the
Yoked.
the I don't know, the oscillator, we'll call it that, into the machine, it messes it up ever so slightly. Also, the fact that Maggie went and straight up freestyle DJ'd
oh my god,
on the recording.
Lit.
That's the whole reason that the ghosts were able to leave the Zodiac ring and go get Cyrus, which gave me my favorite shot of the movie, where all 12 ghosts are looking down on Cyrus, and like we're in Cyrus's point of view, and we're looking up, and they're just circled around him. The only thing I wish is on the right hand of the screen, there is a little bit of a gap between two of the ghosts that the Juggernaut or the Breaker, whatever, would have fit perfectly in. Because he is actually behind the Jackal and the Hammer on the other side, and you can't see him.
You can't stick the tall people next to each other, man. You gotta put them on either side.
The Juggernaut was 7 feet tall. There was no one as tall as him.
Wasn't the Hammer like also?
No,
not
I'm
as
sorry.
tall, but very tall.
The Great Child was as tall, almost as tall as him.
Okay. How tall was the Hammer? I thought he was really tall.
He was like a regular guy, like
he's like 6 foot.
6 foot, yeah.
It says to like the 5 foot people.
Yes, but however, he's got a foot on the Hammer, okay?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. They really should have spent a couple more minutes just framing that right or better, but but it was
probably a race to beat the clock kind of thing.
But it was bone chilling at that moment because you know you're in trouble.
Yes.
When you like look up and you just see the ghosts that you had captured previously.
Okay, so those two things, Kalina, but something that they don't make super clear, apparently. I don't know. Maybe some of my friends have checked out by this point. You don't realize until Cyrus's villain monologue that Arthur's sacrifice is not meant to stop the machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to power the machine. He
Right.
is the final ghost.
Mm-hmm.
It bugs me that Dennis didn't pick up on this before. Dennis obviously is not great at subtlety because Damien mentions, what about the 13th ghost? And Dennis was like, in the junkyard, and Dennis is like, hey, I'm not getting no 13 ghosts. You're only paying me for 12.
Yeah.
This is it. We're done. So then, learning about Basilius's machine,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that random thing about the 13th ghost,
Mm-hmm.
why would he think Kalina was telling the truth?
I think he's too trusting.
I think he was just really focused on getting the fuck out of there alive.
Probably.
Even
that
though
too.
by this point he'd had that premonition.
Yeah, he was still probably holding on to hope that, oh, maybe that was just a fluke.
So, now that we have torn it apart and said how much I love it, even though I've griped about it probably as much as you,
Uh-huh.
I want to know. 1 out of 5 jack-o'-lanterns. What do
3.
you give it? 3?
3. Just due to the confusion, the lack of, like, backbone to the story. It's very fun. It's definitely a turn your brain out kind of thing, but I went in trying to think about it way too hard. You know, I'm ready for this.
But also, if you turn your brain off, you miss some things.
Yeah. So it's one of those movies that's kind of hard for me to juggle because, either the brain's on or it's off.
Yeah. Can't work at half speed.
No. What about you?
So, the kid in me, like my inner child, wants to give this a 5. Because as a kid, as a teenager, this movie scared the ever-loving snot out of me. It did.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the plot holes. I didn't care about the muddy exposition. Like, that stuff didn't matter to me at, like, 16 years old. I wanted to get scared.
Yeah.
That was the point. And it delivered. At 16 years old, it delivered. The hammer was terrifying. The juggernaut was terrifying. I used to have freaking nightmares about the jackal. Like...
Oh, I don't blame you.
Nice. I like your ghost. But I have to give it... I'm giving it a 4.
Okay.
If it were not for the nostalgic aspect of this for me, it would be a 3.
Wow.
However, I love this movie way too much. It's a go-to for me. Like, I need just something on in the background with some, clever one-liners. One of my favorite one-liners in the movie is, oh gosh. What did he say? Did I say there was a petting zoo in the basement? No, there are ghosts, Arthur. Like, I love it. I can't help it. Or, like you were talking about the tanker, and he's like, blood, you've got to be shitting me.
Yeah.
Like things like that.
Yeah. I enjoy the fact that even though we have very differing opinions on this movie, we still manage to basically rate it the same again.
My hard rating is a 4.
No, I know, but I mean, it's like if there was like 1 or 2 things that were changed in the movie, I'd probably give it a 4.
I give it a 4 because the set is beautiful. The practical effects are wonderful. The story's got some pretty glaring little, plot holes.
Yeah.
But what horror movie doesn't?
It's a road in Detroit full of potholes.
It's a road in Louisiana.
It's the American infrastructure. Pothole roads. So, I think we're going to take this into a second part so we can actually discuss the ghosts.
Yes.
Because this was unexpected to be more about the movie and the set than it was about the ghosts. And we feel like that we ought to talk about the ghosts because they are the main aspect of this movie.
Yes. So, join us for part 2, where we rate the 13 ghosts and we share a little bit of the backstory for each one because they deserve it.
Indeed. All right. We'll see you there.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Please go out and be spooky. We'll be here, waiting.
Well, I didn't see that coming.